Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host Miss KK and this is The Wave. On this episode, we are bringing yet another video on inflation. This video is quite relevant because of what's currently happening in the global market, and if you haven't been watching the news, please do check out what's happening in the UK. There is inflationary pressure with inflation reaching a record high of 9%. Compare that to Namibia where we are currently sitting at 4.5. That is a lot. And when I did some research to see what's currently driving the inflation there, I realized it's two things. It's mainly the fuel prices, it's energy prices. And that's no different from what's currently happening in Namibia. We've seen quite a lot of fuel hikes this year, and we are currently operating on a temporary suspension of fuel levies to try and help us, ease the pressure on the consumer's pocket. Plus, we are expecting another electricity hike for about 7.something% in July. So if anything, the events are likely to be the same. So there's nothing not to believe why inflation won't hit Namibia and why we can't see a lot of things going up in the coming months. So in me trying to understand why inflation is going up and how it's affecting me, I stumbled upon a diagram that had 7 layers of financial freedom, and I realized that inflation is actually likely to impact you differently depending on where you are currently sitting with your financial affairs. So I also did quite a bit of a poll on my Instagram page where I asked my viewers to tell me in which financial stages they are currently sitting, and to also share their tips on how they ended up getting there or where they want to be, and how they are, what plan they have in place to actually make sure that they reach their next goal. So to give a bit of background on the 7 financial stages, the first stage is really just clarity. In clarity stage, you are figuring out where you're currently at with your financial journey and where you want to be. So I would like to caution you not to stay in this journey for long, because in as much as it's important for you to assess where you are and where you want to be, you don't want to delay this, because this is time you could be spending improving your financial stages, and this could be time you could spend actually preparing for the uncertainty times that are lying ahead. So yes, do take time, do a self-introspection, come up with that plan of action, but making sure that you are putting that plan of action in effect as soon as possible. The second stage of financial freedom is self-sufficiency. In that stage, you are actually in a position where you are able to cover your own expenses and you don't depend on a significant other, or you don't depend on your parents actually paying for your bills. But this could also mean that you are currently staying at home and you're contributing to your household budget. So you are living as if it's someone that was actually living on their own. So that is the self-sufficiency stages. Then you have breathing room, which is where a lot of us are currently sitting at. Breathing room is you are no longer living paycheck to paycheck. You do have some room for you to save, and you could be saving towards different things. It could be, education, retirement, short-term goals, paying off your debt. But basically what it means that you are not living paycheck to paycheck. You are able to afford to save. Although this is where a lot of us are currently sitting, and it's actually a comfortable place for us to live, to be in, we are actually must remember that we are one paycheck away from being broke. You are one paycheck from actually not getting paid, and if you don't get paid, you need to go dive into your savings in order for you to be able to pay your monthly expenses. But because your savings aren't that many, it will take you a very short time before it quickly dries up and before you actually are broke again. So in as much as it's a comfortable stage for us to be, including me, we need to be moving away from the stage to at least a stage 1 or 2 above where we are currently sitting at. And that brings us to stage number 4, which is stability. In the stability stage, you are saying that I don't have any bad debt that is currently sitting on my book. All the debts that I have are normally good debt. That means it's like the likes of your mortgage, where your mortgage is actually not way too excessive and you're comfortable with that, and you at least have 6 months worth of expenses saved up. So if you had to lose your job, you are 6 months away from being broke. But obviously we are relying that 6 months is enough time for you to figure out maybe starting a business, or maybe you getting alternative employment. So this is really a stage where, if anything, you should be striving for. And then we have flexibility. In the flexibility stage, you are actually at a point where you are having at least 2 years worth of expenses saved up, and you can actually afford to take a break from work. This is where people take sabbaticals to actually go and explore the world, and they just budget around trips that are actually around their current savings level. And also, if you are maybe just starting off as a young family, you want to raise your kids for the first 2 years, you might decide, okay, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom for 2 years, leave off the savings, and then after 2 years I can come back in the job market, to the extent that your skills will still be relevant. So that is a stage where people are actually disciplined to save enough money to be able to do that sort of things. If inflation comes and you're actually sitting in this stage, then the worst that can happen is your savings that don't actually last you 2 years. Instead, they last you 1.5 years, or they maybe last you a year. But in a nutshell, you are not likely to be heavily affected as people in levels below that. And then you have financial independence, where you are at a stage where you can afford not to work because your current investments are actually generating enough money to actually pay your day-to-day expenses. So meaning you have shares, you have bonds, you have properties, and the interest that are coming from your bonds, the dividends that are coming from your shares, rental income you're generating from your properties are actually enough to cover your expenses, and you no longer need to work, or you can work on things that you're passionate about, or you can work on a flexible basis. So this is the level where I'm striving to be at. And lastly, you have financial abundance, where your money doesn't really concern you. You have everything to what you've basically built your empire. So those are the 7 stages of financial freedom. Why I'm bringing this in context of an inflation video is because of where you are. Inflation is likely to hit you different. Like I've mentioned, if you are seeking clarity and hyperinflation or recession come, you are going to be confused. So you need to make sure that it doesn't find you, that uncertainty doesn't find you in that stage. If you are in a self-sufficiency stage, you need to make sure that you are starting to build up. In addition to being able to pay your expenses, you need to start saving up some money in an event you're going to be affected, because if prices increases and you don't have any savings, you are not going to be able to afford your bills anymore. And if you are in the breathing room, like I've mentioned, if things go up, it just means that if petrol is going up, if interest rate is going up, if energy price is going up, it's going to eat in the breathing room you have to save. You are going to be in a position where you were able to save, but you no longer can afford to save. And that means you're actually also broke and you're living paycheck to paycheck. And if you are in 6 months and you are actually in that flexibility stage where you have at least 6 months worth of expenses saved up, that just means the savings are no longer going to cover 6 months worth of expenses, as opposed to will only cover 3. And if you lose your job in terms of the inflationary economy and it takes you longer than 3 months to actually look for a new job, it just means that you are also not anywhere safer. So if anything, you want to be at a level 5, level 6, and the level 7 in order for you to be able to comfortably get through the recession without actually struggling. So what are some of the practical steps that you can take to make sure that you're actually preparing for this? Number 1, you must delay any big commitment, especially to the extent that it involves debt. For example, typical example, we are looking to buy a car. We don't have a car at the moment. If you look at the car and you look at the installment, you need to be able to fork up from that. It could mean that your breathing room to save is going to be significantly lower. So that means if you were to take on new debt now and a recession hit, you are going to be worse off than someone that was already used to having the debt, because that person was already used to living off that disposable income, whereas you that recently just took off the debt, you are still trying to adjust. And on top of the high interest rates that's coming, on top of the pressure on fuel prices that's coming, on top of energy prices that is coming, you are likely to be more constrained than someone that was already used to having that debt. So the first thing you can do is delay those big commitments. It doesn't stop you from actually saving towards that. So that means we could still continue saving towards a deposit, so that by eventually when the uncertainty sort of calms down, we have a bit of a bigger deposit to put towards that purchase. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you can do is lifestyle downgrading. There's a lot that we can cut out of our lives, especially if you are someone that is in level 3 where you are comfortable that given your current lifestyle, you can still afford to save. So maybe you are living in a 3-bedroom apartment, you only need 2 rooms, you don't need the other extra room, but you have it just in case your parents are visiting, or just in case your friend is over or your sister is over. But technically in tough times, you can no longer really afford to keep those luxury. So what you could consider doing is maybe downgrading to a 2-bedroom apartment, and then you can save on the extra room that you're paying for, and you put that savings towards actually making sure that you are buffering up your emergency saving. Number 3, you can accelerate whatever commitment you have right now to make sure that when the tough times comes, you actually have a lot of breathing room. So for example, we are in a situation where we are constructing. We could also fast track that construction to make sure that by the time things really get bad and material prices are going out of proportion and things are getting expensive, we are at least at a stage where we are not buying a lot of that in. We can save that money that we're initially spending on construction, and by that time that property could be generating an income to also help us rebuild those savings that we've actually destroyed with the construction. Or you could consider just relooking at other costs in general. Maybe not a big lifestyle downgrade such as moving property, but making adjustment to your current levels to to making sure that you actually are also cutting out the unnecessary expenses. It could be reducing your entertainment budget, could be reducing your shopping budget, it could be canceling gym subscription that you don't go to and rather, exercising at home or joining outdoor running. It could be, revisiting your insurance on things that actually depreciate in value and making sure that you are getting the discount you deserve. So just look at your situation and making sure that you are actually gearing yourself up for this uncertainty and making sure that you are actually prepared, because you don't want to now go to the shop and all of a sudden, you can no longer afford to pay for food, and that's when you're trying to make sure that you are making some adjustment, because by that time it will be too late. And I just want to close off here to say that yes, inflation is going to increase, but your salary is likely to stay the same. Why? Because company also can't afford to take on an increase in cost. If electricity is going up, if fuel is going up, it just means input cost for your employer is also going up. So that means the profit for the employer is also going to be narrower. So it's unlikely that your employer is going to give you a salary increase. So really, let's not be naive. Let's not be, living in a bubble. Look at what's happening in the UK. Go and Google. The good thing about the UK is they have a food system where people that can't afford to buy food can go to the food banks. And those people that are currently, an average person that is going to the food bank already has a job, but they are complaining their one job is not enough. They also have energy subsidies where the government subsidizes certain, electricity in certain times of the year. We don't have those luxuries. We don't have those benefits. If anything, we have drought relief food that only goes to a smaller portion of the population, or the food bank that's currently happening is only targeting a smaller percentage of the population. It's not likely to trickle down to everyone in the economy. So that's all I'm trying to say. Be prepared, be aware, and making sure that you are making the necessary adjustment. And thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate having you on board. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so. And until next time, it is goodbye.